Okay guys, I'm going to show you today my way of positioning images or SVGs anywhere you like within a container or wrapper and allowing it to crop without causing overflow and scroll bars and all that sort of stuff. Now, what I've got here is a blank page where I've just chucked a couple of ACSS frames in there. So I've got a hero at the top here, Hero India, and I've just got a section, this image group, Indigo, down the bottom here, just to add some content in there. I'm going to grab this bird here, this SVG, and I'm going to stick it in the section so it goes to the right. So it's positioned to the right at the bottom. And then I'm going to crop it and move it so that you can see we can move it around without causing overflow and position it wherever we like. So the image here, the bird image, I got firstly from Adobe Illustrator. I then bring it into SVG OMG so I can optimize it, and I end up with a SVG that looks like this. What I firstly do is you'll have a style tag in here with a single style for the color. I delete that, go all the way to the bottom, and this is just where it's stuck the class attribute, and on the class I give it a name. In this case I've called it bird SVG, and we'll use that for coloring the bird. So that's my SVG there. So I'm going to copy all that to the clipboard, come back to my test page here. So under the Hero India, I'm just going to add a code block. I'm using a advanced CMS shortcut here. If you don't have that, you need to go through the plus for the elements and find your shortcode, find your code, I should say. So there's my code block there. I'm going to paste all of that SVG into there. And then I'm going to allow me to execute the code. Now this has to be enabled in Bricks for at least the administrator to do this. And I'm going to leave this checkbox here unchecked, or the switch unchecked for render without a wrapper, because we need the wrapper for positioning, and then we can use that wrapper for cropping where this bird goes. Right, so there's our SVG sitting there for the bird. Now we need to style that up. I'm just going to do this at ID for the demo. So we're going to go into our layout, and we're going to set our width of that to say 500 pixels. There's our bird there. We're going to set the position of that to absolute, and we're going to set the right to 0 and the bottom to 0. And we've positioned our bird's wrapper right at the bottom right of that section. And the reason it's working with this section is because by default, this Hero India is set to relative. So if you're putting this inside a container, whether it's a section, a block, a container, whatever it is, you need to make sure that is set to relative, so the bird will position relative to that container. Okay, so back to our code. There's our SVG code. Now, first thing I want to do is give this a bit of color. So I'm going to go into the style, into our CSS. I'm going to go root, target the SVG. So the root is the container or the wrapper that I put around it. I'm going to target the SVG. I'm going to set our fill. In this case, I'm just going to make it white for now. You can see our bird now is white. We can use our variables in here. So I'm going to maybe put a ACSS variable of accent. And then we've got a bird that is the accent color. In fact, it didn't render properly. There we go. It's just rendered. So it's my accent color. So we can control the color of that SVG because we set a class name. We got rid of the style from there, and we set the class name as bird SVG down here. Okay, so that's the styling of it, positioning of it to the bottom right. Now, what you might think the easiest thing to do would be to go into the transform, go in there and set our translate X to 100. Okay, translate, or sorry, I did that in the Y. Translate X to 100, and that pushes it over to the right. In the editor, that looks okay. If I save that and have a look at it in the front end, I've now got scroll bars. And the reason I've got scroll bars is because the bird is extending beyond the boundaries of that edge there. So we could, if we wanted to, we could just set on the section up here, we could set the overflow to hidden, and that would solve the problem with it on the horizontal side, but not on the vertical. I'll show you what I mean. If I go to the Hero India now, and I set the layout. If I set the overflow to hidden on that, now our bird is cropped vertically, and we don't want that. So take that off there. So to solve that, what we need to do is go to our actual wrapper for our code. We're going to set the overflow for hidden on that. So we go into our layout, we set our overflow to hidden. So overflow to hidden, and makes no difference because the SVG inside that wrapper is not extending beyond the boundaries, so it's not cropping. So you guessed it, we now need to crop, we need to move this bird so that we can crop it. So we're going to translate the X of that bird. So if we go into our CSS, and unfortunately, because we're in a wrapper, we have to do this with CSS. So we're going to target the SVG inside there. So root SVG, and what we're going to do is transform, then translate the X by whatever we want. Let's say 150px. Okay, so we'll move the bird across by 150 pixels now. If I save that and refresh, now there's my bird there. So we still crop there. Did that refresh? Okay, did I not set the overflow? Let's have a look on there. So overflow there is our SVG code, SVG, layouts, overflow hidden. It hasn't saved properly. Okay, what is going on here? Have a look at our wrapper. There's our wrapper. Overflow is hidden. Oh, I think I've still got the transform. I forgot to take the transform off the style there. So if I go to style there, yes, I did. I forgot to take the transform off the wrapper. All right, so there we go. We've got our bird here where it is cropped horizontally, but it's not causing any overflow. And the reason for that is because that's our wrapper for our SVG there, and it is positioned to the bottom right of that container. The SVG inside of that wrapper is transformed to the right, and we've got our overflow set to hidden for that wrapper. So that's pretty much it. Now I think it's really cool. You can now translate if we go to the container. So this wrapper here, we've got right 0, bottom 0. I wouldn't touch the right, but we can actually move the container on the bottom, and you can see now we can overflow the section without causing problems for the bird. So we've got a crop to the right, but it's not cropped vertically. Now we go, okay, so 80, that's fine, minus 80. Come back to our editor, go to our div, go to layout, and we're going to set our bottom to minus 80 pixels. And now we have exactly what we're looking for, where our bird is sitting there. All right, bird's not big enough, easy. Make it bigger by selecting the wrapper, because the wrapper has actually got the size on it. So this wrapper here, we're going to make the width of that bigger. So there's our bigger bird. Now we're big there. Let's say that now needs to crop more over there. So we go to the SVG that's inside of that, and we translate that by more that way. Now we take those values. So we might take that 230 from the transform there, come back to our CSS tab. We want to translate that by 230. That's way too much. So let's go back to our layout tab, and we want to make that width. What do we make the width up here? Let's go to our here. We made it 650. Let's go back to here. Instead of 500, we'll do that 650. And there we go. So you can use the Chrome DevTools here on the DOM for finding out what works. And then you just copy those values, take them back to the editor, and put in your width there. And then in the CSS tab, put your transform or translate X there. That's all you need to do. So hopefully that is making sense and it's something that will be useful to you. So if you like this sort of thing, hit the subscribe, hit the like. Thank you.